Learning Beis Halacha Perek Hey Halacha Beis Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. There are 5 different types of dogan, which we mentioned before, of the families of wheat and barley. We'll go down to the Peirush. If you mix it instead of with water with fruit juice, is that called Chometz Nuksha, or it's not called Chometz at all? If you, what are eggs considered? Like water or like fruit juice? And if you have fruit juice that has some water, and why fruit juices do not cause chometz, and when there's something called mata shiur, which is made with ingredients which cause it to be, which add flavor, but there are different ingredients. It's not only flour and water. So the Rambam begins. These 5 types of wheat, they are grains. If you mix them with fruit juices alone, without any water, they will never become chometz. Even if you left it a whole day until the dough rose, it's mutar b'achila on Pesach. She'ein meperes machmitzin al nasrichim, because they too do not cause what we call chometz, but rather siruach, spoilage. Meperes hanging going out. What is meperes? Yayin, wine, cholov, milk, dvash. So Agos Maimon says we're not only talking about the dvash of dates, which is mentioned in the Torah when we mentioned the seven things that grow in Eretz Yisrael, for which Eretz Yisrael is praised. 7 species, and when it says dvash, it means the honey of the date tree, but even dvash of bees is called meperes. You learn it from a posuk, Kashet Asena Advorim. The Gemara explains, like Rabbi Yosef says, the bees. These are the bees that they go around and they make honey from things that grow. Therefore, the dvash of Dvarim is called meperes. As I guess it is a little bit different, like Kimin Matagim Avsheshes. But Rashi says the yes correct should be Rabbi Yosef. So says the Marshal. The Zayas umei tapuchim umei mirimoinim, and that you squeeze them. V'chol kiyotzevem mishal yeino yisu shmonim mashkim, and any of these other things that come from oil or drinks is all considered meperos, and they do not cause chometz. You can't mix with them any type of water, and if you mix with them mayim, they are mechametz. Now the Gemara says, if that which is mixed in meperos is called chometz nuksha, is it forbidden to keep it or not? We learned earlier that we have chometz, actual chometz mixed with something that's taruvas chometz. And when it's an ingredient of chometz is found, or flour is found in something that's chometz nuksha, what is this? The Rae Gann says that if it's done with meperos, you can eat it. It's not simple, and not everyone agrees. It could be that you don't make it, doesn't become chometz gomor, and you're not chayav koros. Aval nuksha miyav also. It's forbidden as chometz nuksha, and you shouldn't eat it. Rashi says that the kavona of meperes do not cause it to become chometz. That an isa, which is made from meperes, is not chometz gomor to have chayav koros, but you can't eat it because it's chometz nuksha. The Magen Mishnah cites Psachim 36a. Reish Lakish says, if you have a dough which has been mixed with wine instead of water or oil or honey, you're not chayav koros because it's meperes. And most of the Mepharshim explain that it doesn't mean only koros. There's nothing wrong with it at all, like the Rambam. But the Rae Gann disagrees, and Rashi would seem to be of the opinion of like the Rae Gann that you don't get koros, but it's forbidden. And we find this in the Tosfos pushes off this thought in Lamed Heyom and Beis, and the Bala Itur, and we'll go to, and the Magen Mishnah adds Goinim have the opinion that Peirush do not cause Chometz at all, and therefore you could eat it technically. The Hilchos Chametz says, Sefer Reim, we find a raya to the position of Rashi from the Gemara Menachos 54a that tells us that if you mix a dough with a cut up apple, that's called Peirush, and the iso is asura. So you see, it's forbidden. And Rashi, Rabbeinu Simcha, and all the Goyim paskin like the Rambam that Ein Peirush, sorry, the Re and Rabbeinu Simcha, that Peirush do not cause chometz; they only cause a certain spoilage, and therefore the dough is permitted to be eaten, like Rava says, not like the Yerushalmi. That is the opinion that Peirush caused the chometz, because we paskin always when we have a differentiation between the Yerushalmi, disagreement between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli, like the Bavli. Thus, from Hilchos Chametz we see that the machlokes the Rambam and Ravid is actually a machlokes between the Bavli and Yerushalmi. The Rambam paskin is like the Bavli, that Peirush do not cause chometz, and the Yerushalmi Peirush do cause chometz, and that's what the Ravid is of that opinion. Furthermore, we see from his words that even though the Peirush there's no machlokes, but when you put water in addition to the Peirush, then for sure it becomes even more swiftly chometz, and therefore you can't watch over it. What is the din of meibeim, of eggs? And he says that if you mix it with, if you make challah like with eggs, Rashi is not sure if it's called Peirush, that you're not chayav koros, even though it's chometz nuksha. Rabbi Tam said it's okay. Still, if you mix it with eggs, it's better to watch it and make it quickly into matzah, just like if it was mixed with water. Because according to Rashi, maybe the eggs are not like Peirush, and which do not cause chometz, but rather they would cause chometz. If you have water mixed with the eggs, so that goes Mami says, if you have water, you find if somebody died in the area, you have to throw out the water of the house. In Shulchan Aruch, the meaning was to fill out the water that wasn't gathered in pots. And the Taz says the reason is because the Malach HaMoves throws into the water tipas dam HaMoves. There was a ma'aser that there were people that had prepared water for baking matzahs, and they didn't have anything else afterwards when they spilled it out except for wine. And even so, you can't have wine without some water in it, because when you make the anovim, the smag says that you don't have to worry about this water, because it became bottled to the wine. Thus, even the Rambam says that you can't mix any water. If it is mixed in, the Rivo says that you don't have to worry. Miguel Oiz, who always stands with the Rambam's opinion, wants to answer the disagreement with the Ravad. What the Ravad says, it's an old argument, and the Riv, who was before the Rambam, says the same thing that the Rambam says, that it's not chometz. Miguel always adds, and my Rebbe's taught me also, and the Rashbo said you could eat it. He would eat a bread that was not made from Peirush, and he wasn't afraid of chometz nuksha. Certainly, they would tell others to do so. The other French Rabbonim were noig bechumra. Vani nahagdi chumra. I was machmir for myself, but I let other people eat it. What's the reason Peirush machmitzin? Rae Gann explains, according to Rambam, that iso that has Peirush doesn't have chimus at all. It's not nuksha. Rambam explains that Peirush is like wine, honey, and others like it. That all these are called mashkin chamen betivum, that they have the ability to make something warm up, and they're like hot water, and but it still doesn't make it chometz. In Halacha Gimel, that you cook the kemach, it makes the chometz quicker. Matzah shiro. We're now learning that Rabbeinu Menach adds only regarding becoming chometz. You don't make a difference between wine, oil, honey, or milk to other types of fruit juices. But matzah shiro, which is matzah, that is when you make the dough, you make it with wine, oil, and honey. That you watch it shouldn't become chometz. You can eat it according to everyone, but you're not yotze. You chometz matzah with Pesach, because matzah has to be lechem oini, which is also interpreted as poor man's bread, and this is called rich man's bread, or rich enriched matzah. It's called a matzah shiur only when it has wine or oil or dvash and milk. But if you put it apple juice or something else, you would be yotze mishum lechem oini. Now the question is, if you don't make a moitzi on it, why would you be yotze because of lechem oini? As the Mishnah has a question, the Rambam says, and he said here and elsewhere, that you can do matzah with wine, oil, dvash. That the narration you can't have matzah made only from water, and not because of the problem of chometz, but rather, even if you make it from any Peirush, if you make from it a dough, there's no chometz, but it's not called lechem oini, and that would be contradictions to his words in chapter 6, Halacha Hey, that an isa that was made from Peirush, you could fulfill your obligation, but you can't use wine, oil, or honey, because then it's not lechem oini. And the answers that we're talking about, R'mayim Bilvad is talking l'chatchila. What he writes in Perek Vov that he did it with Peirush is when, if he has no other choice, Hashem v'yayim v'dvash v'cholov, yoytzi even b'di'evet, because it's not lechem oini. Only to begin with, it should be done with water. Therefore, all Peirush b'olam you don't use l'chatchila. B'di'evet, there's a difference between Peirush and the idea of a matzah shiur, which is made from wine, oil, honey, or milk. And that you can never be yotze because it says lechem oini. Shamei Peirush, which is not noticeable that it has this ingredient other than water, it's not called matzah shiur. He cites the case of Mishnah. There's a nusach in Perek Vov. That they're all the same. That if you did it, you're not yotze. Only with water you're yotze. According to that text of the Rambam, there's no problem at all. Rabbeinu Menach is of the opinion that the Gemara in Mem 48, that Peirush is not machmetz, is talking about when you don't add water to it. And the Rambam says that if you have a little bit of water, it is machmetz, even if it means only, of course, if you're 18 minutes, if you're left at that amount of time. He says further, there are those who say that when you add water is added to the Peirush, and you made from that a dough, it goes even quicker to become chometz, because Peirush themselves, the heat of the Peirush causes it to inhibit the chimutz, the fermentation. But when you have water, then the Peirush are considered like warm, and according everyone will agree that you do not use warm water to make dough because it becomes fermented faster in the 18 minutes. The Maggid Mishnah cites the Mikor. If we mixed any bit of water, they are machmitzin. Yerushalmi and Sochim at the beginning of Perek Gimel and Bavli 36a. In Brais it says ein loshna se'iso, you do not make the dough with wine, oil, dvash, because through that they become chometz. A Peirush and a machmitzim only b'shloshim a Peirush b'vad. When you have a tavu b'smayim, at all they are machmitz. Rae Gann Family cites the machloikis. If when they mix the mayim, is it like the time frame of water, or it goes more quickly? And he's the opinion that it's not logical to say it's more, because if they don't cause the chimutz, then what's causing is the water. And the water is 18 minutes. So why should be any difference? Only if you let it rise for more than 18 minutes, then it's awesome. Besides the proof, not like the Rashi and Ravid from Abaya, that it says you should not cause it to be crusted by fire. 2 grains, maybe the water, that when you put grain on fire, it pulls out the water within it, and 1 grain might contaminate the other one, and it will cause it to be chometz. Rava says my pears, which come out because they come out of the wheat, that cause chometz. Even lechatchila you can put 2 of them together. Now Abai admitted to him. So we see it's mut lechatchila. Even chometz nuksha is not called chometz nuksha, and it would seem that that's the proof from the Yerushalmi. Thus we see, according to Rabbi Manoach, in Yerushalmi, we have proved that Peirush are not machmitz at all. And I guess Maimonides, the Yerushalmi, is murach that Peirush are machmitz. Rabbi Manoach cites further the Gemara Menachos 57a, and he learns from what it says, Asher Takrivu, that just like all menachos are only brought as matzah, because you can't bring home chometz, nothing on the mizbeach can be chometz. So too, they bring them, you can't bring them to become chometz. So the Gemara asks a question that they're made with oil. It's made Peirush. Peirush never calls chometz. And from the answer, it would seem that it's not even nuksha, like the Rambam. Rabbi Manoach wants to say that if you mix Peirush in a dough with water, it does cause chometz, but you can watch over it. So he brings a raya from the Gemara Sochem Lamed Hey 35a. Somebody brings a korban toida. He has to bring lachmi toida. There's a chelik, which part of them are matzah. Some of them are 30 of them are matzah, and there was half the amount of the flour is used for 30 matzahs of different types, which are either fried or deep fried, or pan fried, pan cooked, or cooked. But the bread that's made is regular bread, but you can't bring that on the mizbeach. The nozir who brings korban himself brings with the korban chalois matzah. The person made the chalois to sell in the marketplace, and he meant it for himself, and then he didn't end up with any other matzah left except for these. He can eat it on El Pesach, even though they have oil. And if we'll say that it causes it to become chometz quicker, more quickly than regular water, the ones who made the menachos were not kahan; they were the mitzaroim or the nazirim, and they were not people who were quick. And why is it permitted? You can't say it's like in hot water that you make it in the Azorah, because the minchas machvas and malcheshes that you make the nochas behem, they were klei shoyes, and the kahanim were the ones who did it. But lachmi toida is chulin until you bring them into the Beis Hamikdash and put them into the kli. And he didn't make them in a place where there's kahanim. and therefore you can be yoytze. How can you be yoytze achilas matzah even though you do it with shemen? So you see, you can be yoytze, and we're not afraid of chimutz more so than with water. He brings another ayah from Sochem 38b. The Gemara asks a question: Those lachmi toida or kikei nozo, you're not yoytze matzah because matzah shiur, because you have mixed into it oil. And if we'll say so that the water it begins to become chometz, why does the Gemara say that there's an issur chometz? So you see that it doesn't become chometz. The fact that you can use the matzah that was meant for a nozir, which is made with oil for the El Pesach, you can see that you don't worry about chometz. Furthermore, the Gemara answers the Revi'as Halug Shemen is divided up into many challahs. It's not matzah shiur. That's why you don't have the problem with matzah shiur, because there's very little oil. If you have to worry that when there's water with it, there is a problem of chometz, it'll go very quickly to become chometz. How can you make a difference? What's the difference whether you have a Revi'as lug that is used for the whole thing or a lot? Well, it must be that if water is mixed with the Peirush, the issur becomes chometz. It means it doesn't go quicker than water alone. Therefore, every person can be careful. He doesn't have to have kahanim or a place of kahanim to tell him to be careful. And today, therefore, on the first day of Pesach, you have to eat lechem oini. You can't be yoytze matzah sheni lo yishuv b'mei Peirush, but the rest of the chag you can eat it even if it's matzah ashiro.
Right.
So even if it's matzah ashiro, it can be eaten all the rest of Pesach because it's not chometz. Rabbeinu Menoach says that this is the thoughts of the Rambam, that if you mix with it water, it's machmitz. It doesn't mean that faster than water, but the same amount of time, 18 minutes of water. Halacha l'maisa. In Shulchan Aruch, the halacha is that Peirush without water do not cause chometz at all, because it doesn't. It's not. You can eat it. Like the Rambam says, the Mishnah Berurah adds, even if they're from Peirush that have already become fermented, then they don't cause chimutz isui. Shahatzian, he cites, Shilchos Chametz disagrees. Mechaber continues, but you're not yoytze they choves because matzah shira, and you have to eat lachem oini for the first night. The rest of Pesach you can eat it. Like the Kesef Mishnah says, that whatever it's made from Peirush, you're not yoytze the first night. Mechaber says further, Peirush with water cause it to become more quickly chometz, more so than regular dough. Therefore, you shouldn't do that. And if you did, you should cook it as quickly as you can. Mishnah Berurah adds, even less than a shiur mil. Therefore, in a regular dough, we wait 18 minutes. This is the maximum that we permitted to be waiting from when the water is added till it comes out of the oven. Whereas, but Peirush you have to do it quicker, and therefore it's preferable not to do it at all. Mishnah Berurah adds further that if he waited before he began to bake it, it should be osa b'achilo, even if it wasn't 18 minutes. One say it's mutter to eat it, and if it was alive, was baked that way. If it wasn't 18 minutes, you can eat it. The Mechaber continues, you can make dough from wine by adding flour and wine, even though there'll be some water in the wine, not from the grapes themselves, but from what's collecting on the grapes, the dew, the rainfall. Mishnah Berurah explains that they would also place water now when they used to pour from wine from a Jew's pot into a Goyish pot, if they would be in a Goyish pot a wetness, even though it was empty, but he used it before, and it's still wet. The wine, the flow of wine connects them, and even that which is in the juice pot is also, because the nitzuk, the flow, connects them. And it's considered like mixed with yayin, which is forbidden. But if there's water in the kli of the Jew, enough, we consider that water, he puts in enough to nullify the wetness that's in the kli of the goy. Because there's 60 times as much water. The yayin is muta. We find the Mishnah in the Yeridea, and even though they place water, still you don't have to worry that this has a din of Peirush with water, since the water was already bottled to the yayin before they made the iso. And the din of Peirush and mayim that causes it to become chometz quickly is when you put the iso, you put a Peirush, and then afterwards you added the water. But if the water was already nullified in the juice, so that's why concentrate would be okay. It would not cause it to be considered water with a Peirush. Halacha continues. The eggs and other types of drinks, they're called Peirush. Like we're in a town that Peirush do not cause Chometz. Rabbi Halacha cites that the poskim disagree by Esau being Chometz and Peirush with the water if it's called Chometz Gomo. We're in a town and the other poskim say that it's not Chometz Gomo, Chometz Nuksha. According to the Rambam, it's Chometz Gomo. And besides the Pri Megadim, that only with a little bit of water does Rabbeinu Tam say that it's Chometz Nuksha. But if there's a lot of water, mostly water, everyone will agree it's Chometz Gomo, and you're not allowed to eat it. There are more sites. In Ashkenaz, they never use Peirush, and they don't even smear on the top of the matzahs Peirush, just that after they're baked, while they're still hot. They used to do it. We don't do that anymore either. And one should not change that. Only if you have a choice for a sick person or an elderly person who can't eat it otherwise. And we find this in the Mishnah Berurah, in the name of the Poskim. Atchila, we worry about Rashi's Svara and the Raivats that they hold that even Peirush are machmitzim. And furthermore, that it may cause it more quickly to become chometz. And they also worrying that maybe there was water, then according to everyone, it would become chometz. So the best thing is to buy matzahs made only of water.